for any reason you do not wish to be recorded, please feel free to turn off your camera or change your name. I would like to pass the floor now to our host, Olga Berg.
Thank you very much, Sarinka, and welcome everybody to this annual session of a deep dive look at leadership within the district. So it is that time of the year when people are going, you know, will I go for next year? Will I try district leadership out position? What does it involve? Have I got the skills? Can I mix it with my professional commitments? And that's what we're going to explore tonight. So during that, we'll hopefully explore whether leadership is a mindset. Can anyone be a leader? Is a leader born, not made? So in interest, we are giving it a sort of a high energy, deep dive look. And we're going to start off the night by asking Elizabeth Jordan to take the floor. Elizabeth has been a Toastmaster for 14 years. She is currently the immediate past president or past district director. Last year's district director, our district achieved Select Distinguished, which is a pretty high honor. The last time we did it was 8 years ago. So now she's taken on immediate past president, and her role for this evening or for this year is taking on the chair of this year's district leadership committee. So she's in charge of finding those people for next year who are interested and getting the information out to everybody so they can put their name forward. Hopefully we'll have lots of names. So what Elizabeth is going to chat about now is she's going to share some highlights of this role and what it's all about. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Elizabeth.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Olga and host. So as Olga said, I've been invited by this year's district director to be the DLC chair, and I have accepted to serve the district once again. I will speak very briefly about what that role entails, and then we will go over to a leadership panel, a very distinguished leadership panel, in which we will hear from leaders, and then you'll have a chance to ask questions. Next slide, please. So the District Leadership Committee, or DLC, as it's commonly known, our real aim is to evaluate candidates for district elected roles. And I put an emphasis on elected because there are some roles that are appointed, and that will be discussed in a later session by the district director. So the aim of myself and this committee that we're going to pull together will be to nominate candidates for these elected roles and to nominate the best of the best in the district. As Olga said, we are now a Select Distinguished District. We want to graduate to a Medley Distinguished District and to stay on course as we have done so wonderfully in the past. The three district director roles that we'll be seeking nominations for are as follows. The district director, effectively the CEO of the district, the program quality director in charge of education and training, and the club growth director, effectively the marketing and sales director. We will also be seeking nominations for 9 division directors, down from 12. As you know, we had the realignment last year, and this year we'll be seeking 9 division directors. Next slide, please. This is what the sort of organogram of the district leadership committee. So as I said, I am the DLC chair. I've also invited a person to assist me because there's a lot of paperwork to be done. There's a lot of chasing, and to keep this stress-free and to have a second pair of eyes on some of the process, I will appoint a senior person as admin. We then have representation from Division A, Division C, Division D, E, F, H, M, N, and S. And I'm hugely delighted to say that we have each of these position filled, and some of the people who fill these positions are quite enthusiastic about it. Some of them have done it in the past. Some of them are quite senior, have had senior positions. But what I love about it is there's a great deal of enthusiasm already, and we are looking to, as I said, seek for the best leaders for our district. Next slide, please. Here are some key dates, and these dates and the process and procedures are driven by protocol number 9, which covers district campaigns and elections. I would urge every single person seeking a position to read the protocols. The district director and myself will, of course, be sending out important notices at selected times, but I think to give yourself the full experience, I think I would really urge you to sit and read protocol number 9. Here are the highlights. So the highlights are as follows. On the 1st of December, you will have received a call for nominations. You can nominate yourself or you can be nominated. You've got all the paperwork, all the links to the paperwork that you need to send in. I would urge you again to take time, fill in the paperwork correctly, and really do the forms as best as you can. Put your best foot forward. The next important date is the 15th of January 2025, where you have a deadline for candidates to apply for elected positions. Then between January and March, the team will undertake interviews and evaluations by DLC members. What that usually involves 2 members. We try to mix them as much as we can. One person from the UK, one person from Ireland, a man, a woman. We try to mix and match, and obviously not people from their own divisions. We try to get people to look into new divisions or the DLC where they're not members. And then on the next big important date is the 29th of March. The DLC chair has to meet with the district director and share the names of the nominated candidates. So that will be people nominated for division director, program quality, club growth, and the 9 division directors. You can, of course, have more than one. We will nominate people who are members we think are up for the role, who are eligible and competent and capable and so on, who should go forward. And then on the 10th of May, that occasion we all love so much, the annual general meeting, we will then elect the district trio and the division directors. Next slide, please. This is an extremely useful resource that's on TI. So I'll share this deck of slides and you can all go and read some more about this. Next slide, please. So that's all I want to say on that topic. You'll be hearing more from me in the future. And of course, this is the first. We're now going to go on to the panel discussion. And this is the one of 3 events I've got planned in which we will have leaders who've walked this path, highly respected, highly regarded, highly successful people whom you will hear from. I would just urge you, take the opportunity to ask them questions. That's what they're here for. They're here to help you. So Madam Host, Olga, I now hand over to you to lead the district panel.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, District Chair for the Leadership Committee. So from protocol number 9, we're going to dive into the excitement of leadership, and I have a beautiful panel for you. So I'm going to call them up one by one. So I would like to invite Ted Corcoran, known by Toastmasters and probably beyond as the Irish Oracle. He is the past international president back in 2003, 2004 of the whole organization, first European, first and only Irishman so far. He has spearheaded the district the Distinguished Club Programme, which we know is just crucial to the quality of our clubs. And what's very close to his heart is servant leadership and recognition. And that is the introduction for the wonderful Ted Corcoran. I now would like to call up our next candidate for the panel discussion, and that's Lillian Shaftakola. And we can have her spotlighted. Lillian is none other than the regional advisor of the Region 10, which is where District 71 falls under. She joined Toastmasters in the year 2000 with a desire for self-improvement. And here 20 odd years later, she is now the regional advisor. She works in the field of credit risk management, boasts degrees in mechanical engineering, industrial engineering, and quantitative finance, and is currently indulging in a PhD for ethics. And I know that Lillian had discussed when she recently visited at the Dot that she was sort of a resident leader, but eventually took it on, and look at where it led her. And our final panels for this evening is Kevin Lee, joined Toastmasters in 2002. He became district director in 2015 and 16, and that was the first year District 71 achieved Select Distinguished, and it didn't happen until 8 years later. He played a pivotal role in the Pathways program, which we all know, it's a household name in any Toastmasters household. And when he's not a Toastmaster, he's an army medic and father to 3 boys. So have we got everybody in the panel spotlighted for this panel, Madam Host or Madam Zoom Master? I see Kevin. Is everybody else spotlighted? Yeah, here we go. And we just need the wonderful Ted. Okay, welcome everybody. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a deep dive. We're going to look at things about understanding the roles. We're going to look at the inspiration for leadership, skills, qualities, and challenges. So I'm going to begin with what inspired you to take on a leadership role, and maybe 1 or 2, maybe 3 sentences. First of all, I'm going to ask Ted, what inspired you to take on sort of a district leadership role?
The answer very simply is I wasn't inspired at all. The opportunity came up, I was offered it, and I took it.
Oh, absolutely. It's that fact of opportunities don't knock, you just have to take them when they arise.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ted. Kevin, what inspired you?
I think for me, it's very similar. The district was reforming at the time. They were going into two separate districts, and therefore more leaders were required. And my division director, in those days, we had midterm conferences in November, and my division director, Anthony Day, at the time said, "So have you thought about what you're going to do next year?" And I said, "I'll just sit on the top table." And he went, "On you go." I meant it as a joke. And the rest was history. And actually, the district at that time needed people to step forward. And both of us who joined on the District 71 side that year were both area directors or area governors in those days who were invited by more senior and experienced leaders to take the plunge.
Yeah, it's very much, isn't it, that conversation in the back rooms which leads to that leadership position that you eventually go to. And Lillian, same question to you. What inspired you to take on, say, district leadership, or even the position you're in now?
Once again, if I start with general district leadership, I have to say I just fell into the role. I wasn't inspired at all, but somebody came and said to me, "I see something in you and do go for it." What happened afterwards, though, as I did take on the role, I found out that it was a wonderful way to practice my skills in a safe environment. And also I loved connecting with so many members. It was fun and educational at the same time. Plus, I was able to transfer the skills learned to my professional life. And therefore, that's what inspired me to continue over the years until I reached my current position.
Okay, brilliant. So it's much a matter of sitting and then somebody having that conversation and then actually taking the position and then asking the questions after, which I think is brilliant. It just shows you, I think it's in us all, it's not, I think sometimes we think the leader has to be born. So I'm going to move on to just understanding the role. So I'm just going to hit one of you each with these and sort of a quick sort of overview of what the role is, because I think most people would have an idea. So the role of district director, Kevin, do you want to just give us an overview of sort of district director, what it involves in a couple of sentences, if you can?
Of course, the role of the district director is to set the direction and be bold on behalf of the district. to encourage people to dare to be distinguished. And I think that sums it all up. Encourage everybody to step up, do things that they've never tried before, take the plunge, and be recognized for it.
Yeah, it's that inspiring the people behind you or waiting behind to go for that. What about Program Quality Director? Lillian, do you want to talk about that one?
Of course, the Program Quality Director actually has a number of responsibilities, but I would say some of the basic ones are first to support the area and division directors so that they can work with the clubs and increase club quality. And as Kevin said, to challenge all the clubs and encourage them to become distinguished. Then it's to coordinate education and training within the district, to oversee the contests, and let us not forget about the district conference, which is overseen by the PQD.
Yeah, there's a lot, but I'm sure most of you have enjoyed it thoroughly. So Kevin, back to you. I'm going to keep Ted for the more questions later on. Kevin, can you just give us a quick overview of Club Growth Director, the responsibilities in that one?
Yes, of course, Olga. The Club Growth Director has two bits to it. The first bit is membership payment growth. And I think that is just the marker that Toastmasters International has chosen to measure how many people are in the organization and how healthy the organization is. There are nuances to that marker. And the second thing is club growth. Growth in terms of numbers, but growth also in terms of quality, and quality with key performance indicators in the Distinguished Club Program. And I think the Club Growth Director has two of those largest chunks, and historically this has been the most challenging part in District 71.
Yeah, indeed. I'm sure it's the same throughout the whole world of Toastmasters. Ted, can I ask you, what did you enjoy of all those three roles, District Director, Program Quality Director, and Club Growth Director? Which was your favorite and what did you enjoy most about it?
I enjoyed all three because it coincided with a huge success rate for our District 71. When I was the Club Growth Director and I finished up in Las Vegas, that's where we created the Club Excellence Program. And that was accepted into our laws, our governance in November 92. And by June 93, we were number 6 in the world. The next year, we were 20th. In my year, we were 2nd. So we went from nothing to the top. And that paved the way for my future success, because when I went to Vegas in 92, we had 56 clubs in the whole of Britain and Ireland. We were not even thought about as an also-ran. And then we started a run of success that of the next, I think, 20 odd years, we were distinguished or better 19 times, an enormous record. So that's what I enjoyed most about being part of that change from underperformance to really top-class performance.
Yeah, and it just kind of, it energizes itself. You know, it's the people coming behind you. You set a precedent so that you don't want to fall behind. You want to push to get to stay there or be better. So I think that's really important.
We brought in one extra part to the Club Excellence Program by adding the word gold. We had gold, silver, and bronze, and we added the word elite if your club chartered a new club. And in my year, 1994-95, we started with 67 clubs and we finished with 82, a 25% increase in 1 year, never to be replicated. And the top officers didn't do anything. It was all done by people in the clubs.
But that's just, yeah, that's that whole thing, that servant leadership where you're inspiring those people. So Ted, in a couple of sentences, could you say, like, how do you inspire those people behind you? What's your key?
Well, show them what success is. I remember sitting with Brian O'Connor in the what do they call it, the Hall of Fame in Las Vegas, with our arms folded, while all the other districts in Europe, not Europe, but the rest of the world, Australia and New Zealand, all marched up on the stage. And we said, we're going to be there next year. And we brought that sense of achievement, that sense of personal growth, a personal enjoyment. And we introduced the Hall of Fame at the district for an hour and a half on a Sunday morning, which was the real highlight of the whole weekend because everybody got recognized. And when people feel they're part of a successful operation, they're even more enthusiastic.
Yeah, I always think of the Hall of Fame, it's like the Oscars of Toastmasters, and it's really important. And those people who get, you know, that mention and just being part of it just seems like a very successful, and it feeds that whole, we want to be successful, we want to be up there. So absolutely. So moving on, so unexpected lessons or insights that you gain from your time in district leadership. Kevin, can I ask you about that? What sort of unexpected things did you learn about yourself?
So I think for future district leaders, my message to everybody who ever asks me is that the golden quarter is the first 3 months. July, August, and September. Whatever you get there, because of the nuances of how things are measured in Toastmasters, counts for more. So get going, get started, muck in.
Yeah, it's true. It's that sort of lead time is really important. Get it all done then, and then you can just see it through for the rest of the year. What about you, Lillian? What unexpected or insights did you get on your tour through the leadership at district level?
I will actually say something very different. I discovered how important it is to show empathy at all times, because you may know where you want to go as a leader, and you may even think you know how you should get there. But when you're leading a very diverse team, and in Toastmasters, we always have diverse teams, you will find yourself dealing with different personalities, with different ideas, and they will not automatically fall in line. But what I've learned through Toastmasters is that you shouldn't start criticizing people and getting upset. Instead, you should be open, show empathy, and discuss with them. Find out their needs and concerns, and that way you avoid conflict and the team can move together.
Very good, Lily. And Ted, on that conflict, how do you deal with conflict at that sort of higher level, at that district leadership piece?
Well, thankfully, we didn't have any conflict in my time, for the simple reason that 2 of our officers were in England and 2 were in Ireland, and the phone call, you had to sell a house to get the cost of the phone call. So we just got on with it. And we met up at training twice a year and at the 2 conferences. And we had no conflict whatsoever. But remember, we were a very successful district. And usually where there's success, conflict is not a visitor. It's where failure creeps in and arguments break out. But the way to solve all that, of course, is to sit down and get it all together and decide what you're aiming for. What's the goal? Who's going to do it? Who's our team? And as I often say, a team, the words or the letters stand for together, everyone achieves more. Or the other one I use is there's no I in team. So it's a matter of having a set goal. And that's what leadership is. They say, talk about a vision, and then you set a direction and you persuade people to follow that direction. That's part of leadership. And that's what you actually learn in a district position. You're working with people that you probably don't know. You have to learn how to guide them towards the direction you want. And it works if you are patient. And it worked for me anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of going back to that servant leadership, and that you feel, you know, you're serving the people, get in touch with what they want and get that goal set up, and everybody conforms to it. Did you learn anything surprising about yourself? Something you didn't know before? Kevin, you know, when you took on this role, you said, okay, this is a leadership role. Did you learn something about yourself that you said, gosh, you know, I was much better at leadership than I thought? Or, you know, what surprised you about the role?
The biggest shock rather than surprise was that I had no insight about organizational finance. And when you are responsible for a proportion of every member's membership payment that goes to Toastmasters International, and you are given that trust to spend that for the benefit of the district, having the kind of financial insight on how to do it, what kind of maintains the charitable status of the organization, yet is able to benefit the members. The only reason I found out that this was my kind of blind spot was in my year, I got thrusted into the role very early on due due to kind of personal reasons and personal illness, to have to take part of that portfolio on. Unfortunately, for an experienced past district director stepping back into the role, I probably would have crashed and burned that year. But I certainly knew my blind spot and prepared myself for the following year.
Yeah, that would be a shock, all right. But yeah, as you said, you learned by doing it and you got there. It wasn't a problem. What about you, Lillian? Any shock, as Kevin puts it, or a surprise thing you learned about yourself?
It was actually a pleasant surprise in my case, Olga, because what I realized was that I really enjoyed working with people. In fact, I came to love it. You see, I have an engineering background, as you mentioned at the beginning, and as such, I was very analytical and introverted in nature. I used to keep myself to myself. However, being a leader in Toastmasters helped me come out of my shell. And what's interesting today is that I've become a lot less analytical in nature and a lot more amiable and open. And that's really how being a leader has also helped me.
Yeah, it's true, that interaction. And Ted, yes, you have your hand up. Were you shy?
Well, from my early background, that I could be as successful as many people I admired. I lost my mother when I was 7. I lived in a cottage with no electricity, no running water, no bathroom, and I still got to be the international president of the world by taking one step after the next. And I'm saying this particularly for people who feel they're not educated enough or they're not brainy enough to serve in district leaders' roles. It helps, of course, if you are intelligent, but it certainly can be done also if you feel you're not. And I have 2 master's degrees. One, the schoolmaster, and the second one, the station master, when I worked for Irish Rail. But otherwise, I left school at 18, and I still got to where I got to by taking one step at the time, and believe in yourself. Back to you.
Absolutely. Do you feel you have to be driven, Ted, just on that? Do you feel you have to be a driven person to get to leadership, or can that person be massaged into that role and taken?
I wasn't driven at all. I just, whenever I found myself I went to my first Toastmasters meeting, having seen it in the paper advertised, and the guy who had put it together and booked a room and brought in the Toastmasters and put it in the newspaper, he went to the bathroom. And while he was away for that 2 minutes, another man came over and said, "We're forming a committee. Will you do president?" I said, "Okay."
Very good time and place, and it led to
yeah. And then I was asked to be the area director. I was asked to be the division director. I was asked to be the public relations. And by the way, when I was in Louisville, Kentucky, when I was when I was training to be the incoming district governor, this fellow called Howard Steinberg, who was an international director from Southern Africa, approached me. He said, "Ted, will you consider running for international director?" I said, "Who, me?" "Yeah," he says, "you'd make a great job of it." And that was the first time I thought about going past the district. And then, of course, when I finished that 2 years, other people approached me and said, "Well, you'll run for 3rd vice president." I said, "Who, me? How could I be president?" So never feel that people don't see you as worthwhile. They do. And we need to spend more time, I think, saying to people, "I think you'd make a great division director or area director." I mean, look at you. We took you out from the bottom of the pile and made you a division director in my club, Olga.
Indeed. I think the thing is, just say yes and then work it out as you go.
By the way, do you know that Olga and I are club members of the same club?
Yeah, I was buried in the bottom of this club and they found me.
Yeah. No, you were never buried.
So thank you, Ted. So I want to move on just a bit more into the nitty-gritty. So skills and qualities for this role. Kevin, the skill and quality you felt was needed when you took the first one, which maybe was club growth director. What did you feel were the skills and qualities that you needed for that?
I think most of the time in Toastmasters, you just, the key skill is a willingness to learn, the humility to ask for help and turn to members around you and go, can you show me? And I think that quality is perhaps more important than any skill that you could bring to the table.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. It's really important those people around you are so supportive. And in Toastmasters, I think it's really palpable, that support you get from people around you. What about Lillian? What did you feel were the skills and the qualities that you needed for that role when you stepped into it, maybe before what you thought about it and what it actually was?
Well, I really agree with what Kevin said, but further to that, I will also add to what I said previously, that you need to be able to empathize with people, to be a good listener and really be open to them so you can understand their needs and concerns so that you can better serve them. At the same time, conflict resolution skills are always useful, I found, because unfortunately, many districts do have conflicts going on. And finally, I would add to that ability to inspire people, to really go out and motivate them, helps.
Absolutely. And Kevin, how would you deal with conflict? You know, as Lillian just mentioned, sometimes you just have to have those skills. How do you deal with it if it's your first time coming towards it?
I think the first thing to say is don't run away. At the start of my term, I think I ran away from some conflict, managed it by trying to keep it apart. I think conflict is part of life. You like certain tastes, you don't like certain tastes. You disagree. I think as a leader, you foster an environment where disagreement doesn't have to turn into conflict. So first thing is don't run away. Acknowledge it. Be brave to acknowledge it and say, look, I don't think you get along with X. And that opens the conversation. And then be professional about it. How could we make it so that, or how could I help you? How could we help you so that you could learn how to get along? So I think, yeah, conflict and disagreement exists everywhere else, but collaboration and cooperation is what helps us to be successful.
Good answer. Yes, interesting. Okay, what about, and this is one I know that would be on the questions of most people's minds, is time commitment. So you're all professionals, you all have busy lives. Lillian, can I come to you? How do you feel that balancing with your personal and professional commitments? How does that work, say, at the district level?
I have to be honest here, Olga, and say it will depend to a certain extent on each individual leader. There is, of course, a minimum time commitment. You know, if you are going to take on one of these roles, you do have to take it seriously. So you are going to have to spend certain evenings and weekends on it. I personally used to put in a lot more time than perhaps was really required because I was enjoying the role so much and I wanted to get the maximum out of it and also give as much as I could. But I do think that what is important is for each individual to really sit down and examine their personal and professional commitments first, and then see how they can balance that with Toastmasters. They have to find a logical balance that will work for them, basically. So for each person, it may be a bit different. But just bear in mind that, yes, there is time required, so you can be there for yourself, for your teams, etc., for the district, but it really is worth it, every minute of it.
And then Ted, can I ask you the rewards from it? So you say you took it on. What's the rewards? Overwhelming.
It's, I think, belief in yourself that you hadn't before you started. I've done this, we're a success, I can do more. And that's a great feeling that you feel justified in doing what you're doing. And particularly when you see the changes in clubs and in the members, how they grow. And now that I'm sort of back to club level, I see these younger people coming and they grow so quickly. So we're providing a service to them that is really very worthwhile. And particularly where I came from, where I got helped through life by a whole lot of people. My grandmother took over my rearing when my mother died. My teacher put me forward for this and that. And I like to give back time to people who need it. So it's only balancing out for me what I got. So I never feel it's too much time, ever. I love doing it because it is something I owe the community.
And something you touched on there, Ted, the growth, your growth as a person. Kevin, how did you feel that before you took it on and after? How did you feel you grow, your personal growth, your professional growth?
there are growth. There are growth in many areas when you take on a leadership role. You suddenly discover that by turning up, being willing to shake somebody's hand, hand them a piece of paper, and smile for the camera, it lifts that person up. I've never been able to do that. That's what a magician does. Yeah, you make somebody float. But when you're a district leader, actually, a simple gesture could change the outlook, the motivation of an individual. It makes them find courage. It makes them find motivation. So the kind of the responsibility and a key part of the district responsibility is please go out and be present among the clubs, among the members, recognize them, pat them on the back, smile for them, shake hands with them. Never go empty-handed to anywhere. Just dig on a dashboard, find something to recognize, print out a piece of paper, take it, give it to them. Hey, bring a box of chocolates if that means more to you.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, no, I think that's really important. It's not to be this man in the ivory tower, to be out there. You know, I know with us in our contest, we have somebody from the DLT come, and that's lovely. It gives them that chance to chat and just that they're human. They're not just this person sitting hidden behind the tower of power. And now I'm going to ask you, Lillian, the skills you learned in this leadership role, you know, we talk about those these transferable skills into the workplace. How did that work for you? Did you find you got something really tangible and palpable to take back with you into the real world?
Yes, I do think so, because the most important thing was I learned how to work in a team and eventually lead that team. I learned how to organize everybody's time as I juggled work schedules. Very important for me, I learned how to delegate effectively. That was something I originally had a problem with. I always wanted to do everything myself. Therefore, it was Toastmasters that taught me how to delegate within a team, how to follow up, how to collaborate with different personalities, and as Kevin said, how to recognize them. I also learned about accountability, how important it is. First of all, I needed to respect others and be accountable. And I also needed to find ways to hold my team members accountable.
Okay, great, Lillian. And Ted, what about yourself? What skills did you feel joined you back in the real world, whether it's your personal life or professional life, that you got as a leader?
I think leadership is there's a saying that leaders know the way, show the way, and go the way. And being a leader in Toastmasters from club level up, I always seem to take an interest in the problems that my company were facing, and always work with people to get the answers. And having started off as a clerical officer, I finished up as the head of safety for the whole country. All because I think of my skills that I learned of listening and getting people to agree and setting targets and recognizing, etc., 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 pulling people together. As I said earlier, together everyone achieves more in a team. And it worked extremely well. And I was very pleased with my final role, which I held for nearly 10 years. So yes, we learn subconsciously in Toastmasters about management, about leadership, about it's kind of an osmosis that just sinks into you. You can say, gee, where did I learn that? So leadership is learned by doing rather than by reading. You can read all the books you like, but you've got to practice it. And we practice it in Toastmasters every time we go to a meeting in some fashion or another that sometimes we're not aware of, but it changes us. It changes our thinking in the future. And when I sat at that table at Toastmasters International board meeting as the president and looked around at the 22 people, I said, how did I get here? How did I get here? And I did by taking one step at a time and just doing the best job I could. And then the next one was offered, I took it.
And do you think, Ted, you talked about that sort of that osmosis, you know, you're learning these things by osmosis. Do you think do you think Toastmasters works on that mindset? I mean, does it really come down to, you know, it's not just teaching you this role, it's that mindset, like you're willing to learn, you're willing to take this on, you believe in yourself?
I think so, because the way we evaluate is very positive. We evaluate constructively. So we're constantly learning, not just from receiving evaluations or from giving evaluations, but by listening to evaluations of other people. It's a growth industry without a shadow of a doubt. And I see people changing so rapidly as soon as they get some constructive and positive feedback, and they begin to believe in themselves. Currently, I have a young man under my wing, and he's very well educated, but he has no confidence. And all of a sudden, he's joined Toastmasters, and I can see him growing by the week, honestly, because of I suppose, the atmosphere in the club, the willingness of people to help, all the things that come together to develop a person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure both Kevin and Lillian would have similar stories. I'm going to ask that because we're coming close to the end, and I want to know from each of you. So starting with Lillian, what was or will be your legacy as regards Toastmaster leadership?
An interesting question, Olga. I could just talk about the way I steered my home district through the tough pandemic years. They were really a lot of problems there, a lot of demotivation. We had to work very hard to be creative and have people stay on board. At the same time, I had to introduce 4 new and very different countries into the district, and they all had active clubs that were working in very different ways. Therefore, I think my leadership years were extremely interesting, let's say, and I was able to introduce quite a few new things into the district. But I will say that over the years, I think that, I hope at least, that I'll be remembered for my mentoring, because I've developed a wide network of mentees from all around this region. And they're all working on different things at different levels, but they have one thing in common: their desire for self-development. For example, this morning I worked for an hour with a young district officer regarding leadership issues. And then I moved on to a person who has just joined our organization and simply wanted to understand pathways and have me listen to her first icebreaker. I love the variety. I love supporting all these different people and seeing them develop.
Wonderful, Lillian. And Kevin, what legacy do you feel is going to be your legacy in Toastmasters, or was your legacy when you finished off at the top?
So my legacy was an unexpected one, because when I joined Toastmasters, I initially came from District 51 before joining a club in District 71. And as I left District 51, they were #1 in the world for 3 or 4 years in a row. And Muhammad Murad actually stole it from John Lau the following year. And coming from that background where kind of just getting on stage and getting past the threshold was natural, to suddenly see people going, God, being distinguished is the hardest thing you can do in your life, just didn't tally. So I had no doubt that our district could be distinguished, but I'm really surprised that it took 8 years until Elizabeth came along and went, I'm doing that as well. So it's not the legacy I intended, because I thought every year would be distinguished. It wouldn't be a problem, but it's a great surprise.
It is. It's a great achievement. I think they're looking at Smedley distinguished. And sorry, Ted, to you as well. What is your legacy? Will be your legacy? Is your legacy from that big leadership position?
I suppose it's for other people to decide, but at international level, certainly by far is the creation of the Club Excellence Programme, which myself and Brian O'Connor and Norman Fox from Maidenhead put together in my room in Vegas, introduced in November. All of a sudden, we're 6th in the world. Then we went on a run of 6th, 22nd, 13th, 6th, 7th, and so on. We went from the bottom to the top. And the final piece of glory, of course, was I sent it to the president, the then president, Len Jury, in end of 97. And in 1998, it was made into the Distinguished Club Program. I'm very proud of that. That's my idea. And then in 2009, there was another major decision made, which is not that well known at ordinary level. Up to then, there were all the countries outside America were the districts not assigned to regions, DNRs, or as we were known as the dinosaurs, right? It's because it sounded like the same name. So we had to get trained at the convention on the Monday and Tuesday, have our speech contest on the Tuesday night. If you won, you had to have a new speech for Saturday, while all the North Americans had it all done by June. And I was a big proponent of fairness and equality. So the decision was made in 2009 in Connecticut by 68%. We needed 66 2/3 to make the whole world 14 regions. That was a highlight of my career, really. And then locally, from helping District 71 and my club to achieve success. So international and local.
Yeah, no, wonderful. And that the district club program, it governs us all. So thank you. Just one thing, I'm going to do one final question, and I know we're probably at the red light. I just can't see it, but that's probably the way of my screen. One sentence, can we do one sentence? Let's see, a challenge to our Toastmasters. What would you say to someone listening today who feels like, oh, you know, I'd love to try this, but I'm not sure about my leadership skills? And I know we've touched on it, but just one more final inspiration to those people listening who feel, oh, I don't know if I'm for that role. So Kevin, for you first.
I think have a go, shadow your area director, ask to be on a district committee, ask to be a member, ask to take on something. Do what Sarinka does, be a Zoom master. Offer to be the finance manager of your club, be the assistant division director. Test the water. If it's too cold, get up, put something else on. If it's too hot, strip down and hop in.
Brilliant. Kevin, Lillian, your take on that.
I would say just do it. Don't overthink it. It would be a shame for you to talk yourself out of it, because you will find you have a really wonderful journey ahead of you.
And Ted?
I give these 3 pieces of information to people, whether they ask me or not. First, always say yes to opportunity. You never know where it's going to take you. You see where it took me from nothing to just because I took every opportunity that came my way. Secondly, never be afraid to ask for help or advice. It's plenty of it around. And number 3, and I say this to everybody, always believe you're as good as the next person. With my background and this and that, as I explained earlier, how I got from where I started to where I finished up was all because I said yes to opportunity. Back to you.
Absolutely. And just to finish that off, I'd say we see something in you, so please step forward.
And by the way, can I tell you a short story about that?
Yes, absolutely.
I went to Kuala Lumpur to the international convention. I went down to see my friend Balraj Arusaslam, who was running for second or third vice president. He said, have you a minute to talk to my clubman, Danier? He's in the final on Saturday. Oh, I said, of course. So he brought over Danier Hetriachi to me. And I said, okay, you're in the final. Yeah. I said, what's your speech? He said, it's about this and this and this. Okay. I said, have you a second one? Yeah. And he went through it. I said, okay. Have you another one? Yeah. He says, I go on the stage and I put flowers in my pocket and I take off the petals and I put it in a bucket because it's all about, I see something in you. I said, that's the one. That's it. That's it. That's it. And he won in a storm, but only for my intervention. He would have gone with speech 1. Now, I don't know whether he would have won with speech 1, but he certainly won the speech, I see something in you. And I think that's what we see in Toastmasters, in everyone who comes through the door. I see something in you, but it's up to the person to make it happen.
Yeah, we all have that special something inside us. It's up to us to let it out. So we're going to go over to questions now. So audience members, you can either raise your hand or in the chat box. I see Angela, you have a question for our beautiful panelists.
Yes. Thank you very much for an informative session. I've learned so much from it, Kevin, Lillian, and Ted. It was really very good. One of the things I've found very useful in my roles as a Toastmaster is using mentors, you know. But how can we find mentors if we're looking for, well, I suppose, positions in the district?
Would somebody like to leap in and answer that, or shall I nominate somebody?
I can answer it if you like, Olga, because what happened to me, Angela, was completely by chance. I entered my leadership role rather blindly in the beginning without a mentor. And then I went to a TLI and I met this past district director and I bonded with her. And we started talking and it was really lovely. And then by coincidence, there was a workshop on mentoring, and I heard it and a light bulb went off. And I said to her, would you please be my mentor? And that's how a beautiful relationship started. Therefore, you just have to look around you. All the past leaders will really be willing, will be open to it. So you just have to see who suits you. That's what I would say.
Thank you very much.
Can I just go from that? Would the mentors that you have, do they follow you the whole way through that leadership cycle, or do you find you're moving from one to the other? Does that, Lillian, does that mentor stay with you for a period of time?
My first mentor actually chose to stay with me for 3 years, but as I moved up, I added mentors. You don't just have to have one as well. At times I've had 2 or 3. I've had one from Europe. I've had one from the United States. It's good to have a variety of people advising you. So don't be shy about it, is what I would say. Just think of your needs and look around.
Okay, thanks, Lillian. Did anyone else want to add anything else? Philip has a question. Philip, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. First of all, let me just say, I really like what Kevin said about not going empty-handed. As an Oriental myself, I never go anywhere empty-handed. But my question really is about growth. How do you measure growth? We've heard quite a lot said about the numbers. And I liked what Lillian said about embracing difference. But essentially, how do you maintain the consistency that promotes the brand, the Toastmasters brand? She just said towards the end of what she was explaining a short while ago, she's talking about embracing several new countries. They all have different ways of doing things. Is it enough just to build numbers and accept that they will do things differently? Or is there some way in which you insist on consistently maintaining the Toastmasters brand?
Who would like to answer that question?
Okay.
Ed?
Thank you, Philip. Nice to see you. It's a good question. TI advertises growth in communication skills, leadership skills, etc. on its website. The clubs are a franchise of TI. The Distinguished Club program measures how successful the clubs are. Now, you have to have some form of measurement because it does tell you a lot. Because I looked into a district in North America last year, towards in the middle of May, the end of May. It had 57 clubs with no educational award at all, of which 34 had 6 zeros on the educational dashboard. I looked at one today because I went back to it just as it happened, and I found that that club, one of those clubs, had, believe it or not, it's hard to believe, this year alone, 64 awards, educational awards. So you have to have a measurement. It tells us when there isn't any educational awards, there's something going wrong in that club. Of course, I agree with Philip. It doesn't tell you the standard of the speaking that's done in that club, but I don't know if there's any way you can judge that whatsoever. I have been recently asked to write something for the magazine about the best way of writing a speech, and I've gone back to my old holly horse of you got to have the structure and the message and all of that in a line. Because looking at the World Championship contests, although this year was an exception, it's more circus acting than it is public speaking. When I think back to 1995, when Philip was the runner-up to Mark Brown, they had wonderful, ordinary speeches with great motivation and passion. And I still remember it. And that's 30 years ago this year, next year now, 30 years. But they're still there and they gave their speech motivationally. They didn't jump around or fall down or do this or that or whatever. So we had to get back to that because you won't see that in public life anywhere.
But where is the focus in the growth program on public speaking? Because I know that there is a group of there's some thinking at headquarters that the public speaking part is not as important as the other things. Yeah. But whereas in fact, I think, as you know, I think the public speaking part should be paramount, because it is, after all, a club designed to promote the skill in public speaking.
I don't understand your question, because of the 10 goals in the DCP, 6 of them are about education, about speaking. So what's missing?
What is missing is all the talk we've heard today as well is about growth in numbers and so on. And I want to hear more about how we develop the public speaking skills and focus a little bit more on the public speaking part rather than just on the administrative roles.
And how would you see that working, Philip, in practice? What would you do if you were appointed to that position?
Is there a position in the leadership committee? Is there a leadership designed to focus on developing public speaking skills?
I'm thinking this would be a very interesting topic for a session completely on that, because it is very interesting. I think a lot of people would have interesting things, because we are out of time. But I'm wondering, do we have any more questions from the floor before we finish? And Philip, yes, I think that's something really we should definitely look at, maybe getting a session where the think tank on that. I don't see any.
Olga, if there's no questions, I was gonna finish off Philip's outstanding question.
Yes.
On the district, actually, District 71 uniquely has a virtual youth leadership and a speechcraft interest group. And if somebody wanted to drive specifically public speaking skills, those two kind of standing committees or standing interest groups are a great way to get involved.
Yeah, so that might be something, Philip, maybe link in with Kevin to pursue that, because that would be really, really interesting to follow up. Well, I'm out of time. I want to thank my wonderful, beautiful panelists, as I call them, Ted Corcoran, Lillian Shaftakola, and Kevin Lee. Thank you so much. And it's been a wonderful, interesting session. And I hope our listeners have, people here, have enjoyed and learned something and been inspired to step up and do that role of leadership which awaits in District 71. So I'm going to pass back now to Elizabeth Jordan, our chair.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Olga. You did an absolutely splendid job, as I knew you would. Okay, it falls on me to just give a brief vote of thanks, and I want to thank PIP Ted, RA Lillian, and PDD Kevin. Tonight, you have been engaging, you've brought your experience, your expertise, and I think above all, I think you are hugely inspirational. What I loved most about the very eloquent interviews that Olga conducted was she managed to elicit from you, what is great about leadership, why step up to leadership, but also the nuts and bolts, the highs, the lows. You gave very generously of your experience. And I'm always absolutely in awe that we have the Irish Oracle in our presence, because here is someone who shaped Toastmasters International, whom the whole world looks to, and we have the privilege of having him as one of us. And I, as you know, hugely, hugely admire and salute you, and thank you for many things. Kevin, I really appreciate the fact that you made time to be with us tonight. I know you're very, very busy in Germany. You're busy with the boys and all that, and Fiona, but you took time because you care. And owe you a huge debt of gratitude for many, many things. But thank you very much. And of course, our RA Lillian, who was with us a few weeks ago, with whom we had many laughs. We had some fantastic training, and really showed us why we're really seriously proud that you are our region advisor. This is the first of 3 sessions that I am planning to facilitate, because what I want above all is for our members to come and see what great leadership looks like and feels like. I want them to see models of good practice, models of people who embody the core values, and want to bring that to our district and take away that passion and purpose in your leadership. The next session will be dedicated, will mainly be for division directors. And the DD will also put a session on for area directors. And in January, we're going to have our immediate past International President Morag Matheson, who will be here to talk about leadership on the global stage and get some more inspiration. For those of you who are thinking of applying, your role, as I said, is to please take time to fill in your forms. Do so to the very best of your ability and get those forms in by the 15th of January. Speak to people in your areas, speak to people in your division. We've got a great division, we've got a great district, we've got great people, and we want lots of applications. I'm certainly extremely delighted to be the DLC chair, and I will do everything in my power to make sure it runs smoothly and things work well. So it's an equation. I'll do my bit. I invite you to do your bit, and together we'll be great. We'll be very successful. All I want to say, so thank you to all of you. Thank you to Madam Zoom Master, who always does her job impeccably well. That's why you're the Toastmaster of the year. So thank you very much. And our district Timer Matty, who always steps up and never fails to help us. So thanks to all of you who've come along, and I look forward to seeing you at our next event. Please visit the website or read your emails. I'll be writing to you very soon. Thank you very much. And let's give a round of applause to our three speakers, PDD Kevin, PIP Ted, and RA Lillian. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.